Stock is up around 80% this year. Earnings due out later this week, Thursday, I believe. A lot of folks will be watching that and what that says about the American shopper. And I don't know what the election north of the border says about the American voter, but up north of the border, Canadian voters went from conservative to liberal faster than me running through a Ponderosa buffet. In fact, they so easily elected the liberal government and reduced the 10-year-long conservative government to second-tier status that a lot of folks are surprised maybe this global conservative shift is, well, wrong. Let's ask former Massachusetts Senator Scott Brown. Now, Scott, I'm sure you've been asked about this. Justin Trudeau is maybe a sign of things to come, that people have had it with sort of traditional conservative economics, and they rebelled in Canada. What do you say?
Well, I think all politics obviously is cyclical, and you have a situation in Canada. It's Canada. It's not the United States of America. And what's happening in the United States is that this is not your mom and dad's Democratic Party, and JFK would be rolling in his grave to think that the Elizabeth Warren fringe of this party, who basically has rejected capitalism, has rejected the free market and free enterprise of our great country, is now in vogue, as evidenced by Bernie Sanders, an avowed socialist, is one or two depending on where the state is. So the good news for the Republican Party is that we have a strong bench, as Marco said, and I thought that was an excellent interview by a solid candidate. We have a strong party that has strong conservative values that want to put America back to work, and I think that's a good thing.
When you said it was an excellent interview, I thought you were going to say my questions, but then you went right to the candidate. But that's fine. That's fine. I'm not one to be, sensitive. But, Scott, one of the things I thought of with going on in Canada and Trudeau, of course, the heir to the great liberal Trudeau name, is that he is not quite his father's son. By that I mean, yes, he does want to raise taxes in the top 1%, not a lot. He does want to cut taxes for the middle class. And he is also advocating keeping the Canadian corporate rate around 15%, exactly where it is. So he's not a Bernie Sanders flamethrower. So are we getting him wrong, and are we getting Canadians wrong, that they're not marching to the left as much as they may be moderating a little bit?
Well, look at what's happening in Canada. They want to do the Keystone Pipeline. They're
developing, right, and so does he. So does he.
Yeah. And they're exporting, and they're our largest trading partner, and keeping the corporate rate at 15% obviously is going to attract more and more businesses, something that we're not doing. We have the highest corporate tax rate in the industrialized world, putting more and more regulations in place to chase away businesses and demonizing the people who are putting bread on and food on people's tables by hiring and growing and expanding. We make it more and more difficult, Neil, so it's no surprise that he's a young, common sense person who's been there since 2008, gets it, understands that his country needs to expand and grow and pay the bills. So, I'm kind of excited to see what happens up there.
All right, could I ask you an off-the-wall question, Scott? Are you a Star Wars fan? Sure. This new movie coming out, are you big into it?
Yeah, I am. And it's funny you said that in your tease, because you know what it tells me? It tells me how things were back when things were a little bit simpler, not only in my life, but in other people's lives. And to go to a movie for, an hour 30 and just zone out and see everybody flying in space, I'll tell you, it's a good thing. And to see these guys come back, 20x whatever years later, it's kind of cool. And I remember taking my kids to the Star Wars when they were old enough to understand. And we're all looking forward to going forward and doing it as a family again.
I love you to death, but that's very tragic. I think the whole story is very tragic. All right, Scott Brown, thank you very much. I'm kidding.
I'll take you, buddy. You can be my date.
He's a big fan of the Star Wars thing. I don't know. I see a trailer, and a lot of people see this trailer. I mean, it's selling out like hotcakes, ahead of the movie's release in a couple of months. It's going to be huge. I have only one question.